Faith Hill walked onto the set of The View with the confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime under bright lights, but today, something about the atmosphere felt different. It wasn't the cameras or the audience or even the pre-show chatter from the hosts. It was the tension, the kind that hums low, subtle at first, but strong enough to make every instinct sharpen. The applause swelled, warm and welcoming, but the moment Faith took her seat at the table, she sensed the shift. Joy Behar was sifting through her blue notecards with an energy that felt a little too focused. Whoopi gave Faith a knowing smile, the kind that carried a silent warning, brace yourself. Sunny leaned in with genuine warmth, but even she looked braced for the unpredictable. Faith crossed her legs, smoothed her dress, and flashed a polished smile. She had done this 1,000 times. Interviews, panels, talk shows, all part of the world she'd mastered. But today, the internet had turned a harmless snippet of her earlier interview into a frenzy, and the View's producers had smelled ratings. She didn't fear tough conversations. What she feared was the way the truth could be sliced, twisted, and fed back to her like a weapon. Joy leaned forward before the applause even died down. So, Faith, she began, her tone a blend of curiosity and challenge, the internet is in a bit of an uproar over your comments yesterday. Faith held her smile steady. There it is, she thought. Joy continued, you want to clear that up before we dive into the fun stuff. The audience murmured, leaning forward. Faith inhaled calmly. Joy, I think people online sometimes grab a moment without context and run with it, she said. It happens to all of us. Joy's eyebrow arched, an almost theatrical movement. Sure, but don't you think public figures, especially ones with your influence, should choose their words a little more carefully? The air tightened. The audience sensed it, even the floor manager froze for half a second. Faith's smile faltered, just a millimeter. I choose my words very carefully, she replied. But I'm human, and context matters as much as clarity. Sunny stepped in quickly, like someone trying to stop two cars on a slow-motion collision course. I think what Faith is saying is important. There's a real problem with digital outrage culture. But Joy cut in, her voice crisp. Outrage doesn't just appear out of nowhere. People were reacting to something. Faith leaned back slightly, her posture still elegant but her eyes more focused now. And they were reacting to something taken out of context, she said. That's the problem I'm addressing. Joy gave a small shrug, as if dismissing the entire explanation. Well, the clip didn't look great, Faith. People were confused. Faith let out a soft breath through her nose. That one word, confused, felt like a slight. Maybe instead of assuming confusion, we start with curiosity, she said evenly. Ask what someone meant before judging what they said. A few people applauded, not enough to shift the room, but enough to validate Faith's point. Joy sat back, folding her arms. Are you suggesting we're judging you? Faith didn't flinch. I'm suggesting that if I'm invited here to talk about my work and the causes I care about, leading with a misinterpreted clip isn't a fair place to start. The audience erupted into a louder, more divided reaction, half supportive, half hungry for the drama. Whoopi raised her eyebrows so high they nearly disappeared into her hairline. Even she wasn't expecting Faith to push back so directly. Joy's smile had thinned into something icier. We ask tough questions on this show. That's what people want, and I give honest answers, Faith replied, matching her tone in calmness but doubling it in conviction. That's what I do. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't chaos. It was a slow, simmering boil that had finally begun to bubble over. Then came the moment, the spark that no one saw coming. Joy, thinking her mic was low, muttered under her breath, sensitive today, aren't we? Faith heard it, and it hit her like a slap. Her posture straightened, her chin lifted, her eyes narrowed with a sudden, icy clarity that made the entire studio hold its breath. Excuse me, Faith said, her voice no longer calm, now sharp, direct, and edged with something dangerous. The audience gasped so loudly it echoed. And that was the moment Faith Hill, after years of grace, control, and composure, finally erupted live on The View. Faith Hill didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam the table. She didn't resort to the theatrics that reality TV thrived on. Her eruption was different, quiet, controlled, and piercing enough to split the air. Say it again, Faith said, staring across the table at Joy, her voice trembling not with fear but with indignation. If you have something to say about me, say it loud enough for every single person in this studio to hear. The studio went stone silent. Not a shuffle, not a cough, not even the faint hum of backstage movement. Everyone froze. Joy blinked, startled but determined not to look rattled. Faith, she said with a forced calm, I just said you seemed sensitive today. That's all. Faith's jaw tightened. That's not what you said, she fired back. You said it in a way meant to dismiss me. And I'm done pretending it doesn't bother me. The audience gasped again, and this time the reaction wasn't scattered, it was unanimous. People leaned forward, phones half lifted as if waiting for the moment to go viral. Joy's eyes narrowed, not in hostility, but in discomfort. She wasn't used to being confronted so directly on her own turf. Now, hold on, she said slowly. This is how conversations work on this table. We push, we prod. No, Faith cut in sharply. There's pushing, and then there's belittling. I know the difference. Sunny touched Faith's arm gently, but Faith barely felt it. Weeks, months, maybe years, of holding her tongue in interviews, ignoring online comments, swallowing misinterpretations, and smiling through unfair narratives, it all surged forward like a wave finally breaking. I came here to talk about a project that means a lot to me, Faith continued, voice resonant with emotion. I came here prepared for tough questions. But I will not sit here and let you reduce me to a stereotype just because I chose to defend myself. Joy exhaled, trying to regroup. Faith. No, Faith repeated, more firmly. I'm speaking. Even Whoopi looked stunned. She'd seen plenty of clashes at that table, but the raw emotion in Faith's voice, dignified, wounded, powerful, felt different. Real, not performance, not ego. Faith pressed on. Women get called too emotional, or too sensitive, every time we push back. Every time we stand our ground. Every time we refuse to be quiet. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being polite about it. And I'm sure a lot of people watching are tired of it, too. The audience erupted into the loudest applause of the entire episode, long, sustained, almost cathartic. Faith's words hit home. You could feel it ripple through the room. Joy, to her credit, didn't snap back. Her expression softened just a little, even if pride kept her from fully deflating. Faith, she said, I wasn't trying to attack you. Faith looked at her, breathing deeply. Then be mindful, because offhand comments carry weight, especially on a platform this big. The applause swelled again. Joy hesitated, then finally said, if it came across as belittling, I apologize. Faith nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness, it was acknowledgement. Whoopi seized the moment like a lifeline. We're gonna take a quick break, she announced. We'll be right back. The second the cameras cut, the studio exploded into motion. Producers hurried over. Assistants brought water bottles. Makeup artists hovered like anxious bees, brushing away shine from foreheads dampened by tension. Joy stood first, smoothing her blouse. She took a breath, walked around the table, and stopped beside Faith. Her voice was lower, stripped of TV bravado. I wasn't trying to hurt you. Faith looked up, her expression softening but still guarded. I know, but it did. Joy pressed her lips together. I appreciate you telling me. Not everyone does. Faith nodded. And I appreciate the apology. The two women held each other's gaze for a moment, two strong personalities meeting in the middle, not as on-air adversaries, but as humans trying to understand one another. Meanwhile, backstage monitors lit up with notifications as the clip from moments earlier, the confrontation, the eruption, began spreading online at lightning speed. The phrase, Faith Hill erupts, was already climbing the trending charts. When the show returned from commercial, Faith looked calmer, more grounded, but unmistakably changed. There was a new strength in her posture, a new clarity in her gaze, like someone who had finally spoken a truth they'd swallowed for far too long. She finished the segment with poise, humor, and genuine warmth, but viewers could still feel the echo of her eruption in every sentence. And when the show ended, and Faith walked off stage, the applause she received from the studio wasn't polite, it was filled with respect. She hadn't planned to erupt. But sometimes, eruptions aren't explosions. Sometimes, they're awakenings.